Look at a map of Asia. You see Russia, the largest country on Earth. You see China, the world's rising superpower. And right there, caught in a geological pincer movement, is Mongolia. It's landlocked, sparsely populated, and surrounded by two of the most expansionist empires in history. By all laws of geopolitics, Mongolia shouldn't be here. It should have been absorbed, partitioned, or forgotten decades ago. And yet, it isn't just there. It's a vibrant democracy with a fierce sense of identity. Today, we're exploring the Mongolian miracle. How does a nation of 3 million people stay independent when its neighbors have a combined population of 1.5 billion? It's a story of third neighbors, secret Soviet deals, and a nomadic spirit that refused to die. The rise and fall briefly acknowledge Genghis Khan. Not just because it's cool, but because that golden age is the bedrock of their identity. The Dark Centuries explain how Mongolia fell under the Chinese Qing Dynasty for 200 years. By 1911, Mongolia wasn't a country, it was a province. The 1911 opportunity, when the Qing Dynasty collapsed, Mongolia saw a window. They declared independence. But here's the problem, China didn't agree, and Russia was busy with its own revolution. Key insight, Mongolia's independence wasn't a gift, it was a desperate gamble during the chaos of the early 20th century. The lesser of two evils, why did Mongolia turn to the USSR? Because they feared China more. In 1921, with Soviet help, Mongolia became the world's second communist state. The buffer state logic, why didn't Stalin just annex Mongolia like he did with other territories? The cushion, he wanted a buffer between the Soviet Union and China or Japan. The optics, having a separate ally in the UN gave the Soviets more political leverage. The price of protection, this wasn't a fairy tale. Mongolia paid in blood. The 1930s saw the destruction of hundreds of monasteries and the execution of tens of thousands of monks and intellectuals. The 1960s split, when Russia and China stopped being friends, the Sino-Soviet split, Mongolia became a massive Soviet military base. This solidified their border but made them a target. (1990), the Quiet Revolution, when the Soviet Union collapsed, Mongolia didn't spiral into civil war. They peacefully transitioned to democracy. The geopolitical nightmare, suddenly, the Soviet checks stopped coming. Mongolia was left alone with a very powerful China and a struggling Russia. The genius strategy, they invented the third neighbor policy. Asterisk definition, if you have two giant neighbors who might swallow you, go find a third neighbor far away. The players, they courted the US, Japan, South Korea, and the EU. They sent troops to Iraq and Afghanistan to prove they were useful allies to the West. Why it works? By giving the US or Japan a stake in Mongolian stability, Mongolia makes it expensive for Russia or China to interfere. Identity as a shield, why haven't they been culturally absorbed? Language, they kept the Mongol language, though they use the Cyrillic script. Nomadism, even in the city, the nomadic soul, independence, toughness, defines their politics. The economic tug-of-war, 90% of Mongolia's exports go to China. This is their biggest threat today. The mining boom, they sit on trillions in gold, copper, and coal. This wealth is their ticket to independence, but it also creates a resource curse that their neighbors want to control. The balancing act, Mongolia has to be a pro-China for the economy, pro-Russia for energy, and pro-West for democracy. It's like walking a tightrope in a hurricane. Summary: Mongolia survives because it is too useful as a buffer, too strategic to be ignored, and too proud to be conquered. The lesson: sovereignty isn't just about military might, it's about clever diplomacy and knowing exactly who you are. Closing thought: in a world where big countries often bully small ones, Mongolia stands as a reminder that even when you're caught between giants, you can still forge your own path. What do you think? Is Mongolia's third neighbor policy sustainable in a new Cold War? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more geopolitical deep dives.